want to go to John Nolte, Breitbart News Senior Writer. John, hello, sir. How do you do?
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Great to talk to you. Again, if anyone has any problem with John, 866-995-PATRIOT. Or if you want to sing John's praises, everyone could use a nice little compliment now and again in life. So if you want to call John and say, hey, I love the book, or I love your writing, I'm sure John would appreciate that too. Either way, 866-95-PATRIOT. John, where's your head at with the election right now? Your sense of the polls, the mood, the vibes?
I still feel good about Trump's chances. I'd still rather be Trump right now than Kamala. The Nate Silver has the same vibe, I think, that I do. That that she's peaked, and that she really has nowhere to go but down. A lot is going to depend on next week's debate. Obviously, in a race that's tied, the debate could actually matter, and we'll see how she does. I mean, she just doesn't do well under pressure. And she's going to be out of her comfort zone because if you look at, she likes to stand and she likes to have notes and she likes to have the mic on, and she's been crybabying about that forever. But I'd rather be Trump now than her. I think he's and he's a hell of a closer. We saw that in 2016. We saw that in 2020. Even though we're told he lost in 2020, it came within 50,000 votes in 3 states when we were told he was down by 10 points. So. The wins, I think, are with Trump. He seems to be much more in control of himself, not making as many dumb statements as he has in the past. I think that's helpful. And he's doing a lot of media. I think that's helpful. She's hiding, and she's running on air. And maybe she'll make it. I don't know, but she's not running a good campaign, and he is, and just. In the way that the polls seem to always underestimate Trump's support, I think everything's in his favor right now.
Okay, I got a ton of things to bring up here. So you mentioned Nate Silver. So Nate Silver just wrote a couple hours ago. He said, in addition to Pennsylvania, Michigan has become something of an issue for Harris. It's a soft way of putting it. So if you do the 270towin.com, if Trump can lose Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, just pick up Pennsylvania and Michigan,
and he wins
the election.
That's right.
Sorry, go ahead.
She has to, the classic cliche in politics is true. She has to run an inside straight. She has to get all the states except one. She can lose one state and win the election. He just has to pick up a couple of these swing states, and it's his. And in other words, he has more paths to win than she does. And that should worry her too.
Okay, so my worry about that is this article that the New York Times published the other day from some random guy on the street who also happens to be the dean of the Berkeley Law School, that says the Constitution is dangerous. It's anti-democracy, and he listed a couple of reasons, but specifically the big one is the Electoral College. So I'm concerned that if she were to win the popular vote or whatever, but lose Michigan and Pennsylvania, that the left will absolutely freak out in ways we've never seen before. How concerned are you about that?
Well, it's part of their long game. Their long game is to kill the Electoral College, and their long game is to kill the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, because you've seen a lot of pieces now attacking the Constitution. The Constitution is the problem. And it's all just Nazism and Marxism disguised as, democracy and freedom and whatnot. So they're gonna do what they always do, and eventually, hopefully not my lifetime, I think they're probably gonna win, because if they ever, let's say Kamala wins this election, they're gonna and let's say that they win the Senate and the House, they're gonna kill the filibuster and just pass everything, and they're gonna pack the court. And these are all the things that they're going to do. And if that happens, if we ever get into that situation, and if the left ever finds themselves, if Democrats ever find themselves in that situation, where they got the House, they got the Senate, and they got the presidency, even if it's by one vote in the Senate, they're going to do all that and cement their power forever. So that's going to happen regardless. Hopefully it won't happen this time. If she wins, it looks like the Republicans are going to hold on to the Senate, are going to capture the Senate. But that's just an inevitability we're going to have to deal with, and it doesn't matter what happens in this election or not.
Yep. So back to this Michigan polls. So again, that Nate Silver saying, hey, in addition to Pennsylvania, Michigan's becoming an issue. So, but I look at the polls and what he posted in Michigan, she's up by 3. So you're like, well, wait a second. Like, why? How is that a problem for her?
Well, because he's topped her in a few polls. So we don't. Are you looking at the average saying he's up by 3? She's up by 3.
You know what? I take it back. I thought I was looking at. I thought this was in order of timeline, but it's not. That just happened to be that just happened to be one of 5 polls. Yeah. So if you look at all of them. She's probably up by 1.
Yeah, he's leading in a couple of polls. So it's a total jump ball. She should be running away with Michigan. I mean, Gretchen Whitmer won that state by 8 or 9 points. So that's worrying them. And if I'm telling you, if she loses, she is going to look back the same way that Hillary now looks back on never visiting Wisconsin.
Yes.
Kamala Harris is going to look back at not choosing Josh Shapiro the same way that Hillary looks back on not visiting Wisconsin, because it was a massive, massive blunder. She could have really put the election away had she chosen Shapiro, but she's a bigot. She's a leftist. She hates Jews. She didn't want a Jew on the ticket. Her followers didn't want a Jew on the ticket. And that's why she didn't choose him. And if there's any justice in the world, she's going to lose Pennsylvania, she's going to lose the election, and she's just going to have to suck on that for the rest of her life. Imagine losing a presidential election over something that petty, over your own bigotries. It would just be wonderful.
If there's any justice in the world. I love that line. I'm going to use it. We mentioned this earlier that, I forget how we got onto it, but talking about ads, commercials. And I said, it was like a throwaway line. I said, like, I can't believe ads make a difference. I don't get it. Like, Kamala is going to spend this many millions of ads and whatever. And you're like, ads? Who is influenced by ads? Who is influenced by a commercial on the TV? You know what I mean? Like who's sitting back being like, that's sensible. I will take the other candidate's word for it on who the other candidate is and what they stand for. And then a bunch of people called in and talked about, no, the ads do make a difference. And I wasn't arguing that they do. I'm just like lamenting the fact that they do. Right? So what is your sense on commercials and what a difference they make?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like yard signs. Do yard signs really make a difference? But yet we've been using yard signs for decades and decades and decades. It's just, it's a very diversified country. Everyone isn't like us. So these ads, they do affect certain people because, you and I look at it and go, well, no ad would change my mind, but not everyone's like us. The other thing, especially for a Republican, is that it's a way for them to get over the wall of the corporate media. They can use the ads and remind people, this, and this, because CNN isn't telling you this and ABC isn't telling you this. But this is a fact. So I think that's another way to affect people. And remember that a lot of people are not, and this is not a criticism, because it doesn't mean that they're dumb. They just have other interests. But some people are not what you would call politically sophisticated. And again, it doesn't mean they're dumb. Maybe they're probably sophisticated at fixing a car or building a building or in the lab or something. But politically, they're just not. So these campaign ads can make that's a good point. And then so I think advertising is very important.
Very interesting. This got into a conversation. Someone called in and said, well, for people over the age of 60, also perhaps they tend to make more of a difference. And maybe there's a demographic out there older where they still trust the news because of Walter Cronkite or whatever. But the woman who called in, she said, Trump's been slipping a bit in that demographic over 60. Is that true? Have you seen anything like that? That
was true when Biden was in office. And I think that had to do with sort of a rally around the old guy effect. And it also has to do with the fact, if it's happening with Kamala, I haven't looked at the polls, at that specific demographic, but don't forget that people over 60, and I'm 58, so I can relate to this. We're doing okay because we own our homes and we're making a good living. Most of us, we're well into our careers, and yeah, inflation sucks, but we've been working long enough and we've moved up the ladder long enough that we make a good living. So even though inflation sucks, we can afford it. Plus, this is one thing that people don't talk about a lot. These high interest rates benefit older people because we have annuities. So instead of getting 2% interest on our 401ks or our IRAs or just our annuity, I guess there are three different things. We're getting 5%. So instead of making, if someone has $500,000 in an annuity, they're making $25,000 a year on that annuity, which is $2,000 a month and change, instead of $10,000 a month. So older people are doing fine in this economy because high interest rates don't affect them. They're not looking to buy a house. Their property values are going up. It's all good for most of the people in my age range.
Certainly compared to a 24-year-old.
Yeah, if you're looking to buy a house now, I mean, and this is why, while the Democrats might be doing better with older people, Trump is doing better with younger people because they're getting killed.